Yeah, this is a jazz joint.
Air it out. I had to clear it out, clear it out. I feel like Superman to tear it down. Call as a quarterback and send him out. I feel that air it out, air it out. I had to clear it out, clear it out. I feel like Superman to tear it down. Call as a quarterback and send him out. Take off. I'm on a rocket, a space dog. Bought a new car for Elon, wanna race. I've been asking how long is it gonna take. I've been cracking the car, had to break the safe. I've been riding my wrongs, had to change my ways. I was stuck in one place, so I had to shake. They try holding me down, but I found my way. Riding rich and no bicycle, love me. Ride away, then my heart went on ice again. Find a balance, my patience been going thin. In the field every day till I reach the end. Popping up on your side like we out of bounds. Ain't no way that they think that it's stopping now. I've been waiting for my turn to come around. I've been waiting for my turn to come around. Air it out, air it out. I had to clear it out, clear it out. I feel like Superman to tear it down. Call as a quarterback and send him out. I feel that air it out, air it out. I had to clear it out, clear it out. I feel like Superman to tear it down. Call as a quarterback and send him out.
What is up, football fans, and welcome to the Air It Out podcast, brought to you by Inside the Hashes. I am your humble host. My name is Avery, and I got two of my favorite people on planet Earth in the building with me today, and that is none other than the one and only. Say what's up to the people, Juan.
Good morning, football lovers. I am sorry if I'm looking a little tired today. I have recently woken up from a nap after waking up at 5 a.m. to drive the wifey to work, because, supportive husband, got to be doing my thing every time I can, whenever I can. I also want to give a big shout out to the Greek god himself, Giannis, on a very happy birthday today. Please don't leave Milwaukee, Giannis. You'll make me cry. Thank you.
Shout out to you. There's nothing wrong with a nap, and your husbandly duties come first. Not mad at it. Speaking of birthdays, shout out to my father, my pop. Happy birthday, Pop. I'll definitely be giving you a call after this. Anywho, we're going to jump down to Darius. Say what's up to the folks. Is it still Stidham season or no?
Nah, we was talking about this before the show. It's not Stidham season. It might be Drake May season. Man, shout out to the Patriots. Shout out to the Jets too, man. Getting a much well-deserved victory. It's always nice when the Patriots and the Jets can get a victory. That's the only time when me and Juan are ever gonna get along, when both of our teams win and we're not facing each other. But I'm excited to be here on a Saturday morning to talk about football with my favorite people.
Hey.
So I'm ready, man.
Christmas weekend, you and me, not going to be on talking terms. I'll tell you that much.
I'm not going to say anything about the subtle shot that just got shot at me and my team, because at the expense of the Falcons, the Jets got to win. But whatever,
I mean,
the Falcons suck, so it is what it is. It is what
I will say it's nice to see the Jets win. Yes, it hurts draft stock, but I've come to learn as a football fan in general, it's not about where you draft. It's how you draft.
100%. And you guys got a ton of picks, so you're not. I don't think you're hurting for anything. And here's the reality, man. You guys don't have as many holes as you think you do. And with the amount of draft picks that you have, I mean, you guys are one solid draft from being the Houston Texans, going from a terrible team to now a team that we're like, hey, hold on. These guys are a threat, for real, for real. You guys you're that close, literally.
Shout out Aaron Glenn, man. Knew the guy from his Detroit days. What a fire! It took him a while. But sometimes bad teams take a while to really kind of change a culture around. It doesn't happen overnight. Let's see if it carries into the next year.
Let's talk about this real quick, okay? This is not one of our topics today, but let's talk about it because I have a theory. I have a theory that defensive coordinators need more time. Like if you came from a defensive background or if you're a defensive coordinator prior to becoming a head coach, you need more time to set the culture as a head coach than an offensive coordinator. That's my theory. And the reason I have this theory is because when you're a really good offensive coordinator, it's like easier for players, I think, to buy in because they think, oh, we're going to score a lot of points, right? We're going to win a lot of games. And if you already have a semi-good defense, it's like, it's easy to buy in. We see, example, Ben Johnson. It's easy for a team to buy into that. They're like, wait, we saw what you did in Detroit. Aaron Glenn, on the other hand, it's like, we don't know because your defense kind of imploded in the playoffs last year, not giving credit for what he did with all the injuries that Detroit dealt with last year. What are your thoughts on that? That's my theory. I'll go to you, Darius. How do you feel about it?
It's not a bad theory. But there's a couple of guys when you think about offensive minded guys, right? Like Josh McDaniels is one person, right? He had 2 stints as a head coach, one in Denver and then one in Las Vegas. And granted, both of those teams were not the best, but they did have a lot of weapons. But I like the theory. I think defensive minded coaches, you have to your buy-in takes a little bit of time, right? Look at Robert Saleh. Like, I don't think he at some point I think he did have the Jets buy-in. I think there were just other question marks that obviously, there are other things behind football, right? If you don't get along with the GM, if the owner's too involved, right? There are things that we don't know as fans, and sometimes even as analysts, we don't know. But from a defensive-minded coach, yeah, right? Like, me as a player, I want to score points, right? If I'm a defense, I want my offense to score points. So I'm buying into this offensive-minded guy like Ben Johnson. He has Chicago bought in because we know what he was able to do with a guy like Jared Goff, right? Who, arguably you can make an argument he's a top 10, top 15 quarterback, right? But you look at the weapons that he has around him. Now he's with Chicago, and now look what he's doing with Caleb Williams, who was arguably when he was coming out of college. They were saying this is next generational player. So if I'm a player and I'm on a defense, I honestly would want an offensive minded coach because that takes a lot of pressure off of me, especially if the defense isn't if we're not trending in the right direction or we're like a middle of the pack defense. But if the offense can put up 40 points, hey, we're good, man. We can give up 400 yards, but I know my offense going to go out there and get some points. I'm cool with the offensive coordinator coming in and changing the culture.
And to your point about Josh McDaniels, I think that's the difference, right? Just because you're an OC and you had success in one place doesn't mean that you're a great OC. I think Josh McDaniels was great for what he did with the Patriots, right? And the personnel. But think about it. He wasn't scoring a lot of points. They were just an extremely efficient offense. They weren't scoring a ton of points and blowing people out the water and doing things like the trick plays and they weren't. They were just extremely efficient and they executed to the highest level. And I think a part of that obviously was Bill Belichick and his system as well and the culture that he built there. But, you look at Josh McDaniels, he goes to these other teams. I mean, it's hard for people to buy into that because it's like we're not scoring points. It's just a complicated, number one, but efficient offense when run and executed at the highest level. So it's like hard for me to buy into that as opposed to a Ben Johnson where it's like we see it don't matter where you go, you gonna cook, dude, like because you just know how to scheme offense. Defense, on the other hand, little bit different. Like I'm not saying that it's impossible. We see it with guys like Vrabel, right? Vrabel completely shifts a culture immediately. But then you look at somebody like Raheem, defensive-minded. It's taken a while for the team to really adjust to his culture and really buy into that. Or you look at somebody like Saleh. It took a while before we saw the Jets defense really become really good. And then the question mark was on offense, which, it's like, okay, you got to bring in a good coordinator. Obviously, the quarterback issues with Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson and that whole fiasco. But I'll leave it there. Juan, what's your take on it? Is my theory off? Is there some merit, no merit?
I think it's really case dependent, man, and it's really dependent on what you can preach culture going into a season all you want, but it's at the end of the day, it's the results that is the results and the feeling that at the locker room that speaks volumes of what you're doing. There were so many chants and so many people online calling for Aaron Glenn's head firing after going 0-7 for the start of the season, but as soon as you start seeing like a lot of these close Jets games, you can tell that they play for this coach. They fight for this coach because there has been some blowouts. Let's not argue that there haven't been, but a majority of these games, the Jets have kept it close for the most part. They still fight. They still play because there's something to play for, and that to play for is a culture that's being set within the locker room and within the organization. But it also depends on the kind of guy that takes over said culture. Like there's a difference between I'll reference back to what there is. That like you can be a great offensively minded head coach like a Sean McVay or a Matt LaFleur, but if you don't have the right personality and the right people abilities, you're gonna crash and burn like a Jeff, like a Josh McDaniels, or a soon to be Zach Taylor because of how that's going. It applies to the same thing on the other side of the ball on defense. If you're like Aaron Glenn or Mike Vrabel or Todd Bowles or D'Amico Ryan down in Houston, like those are all defensive minded coaches, but they have this leader of men quality, this follow me into the fire, and I will get you there scathed but alive. Like I'm calling it the Dan Campbell effect because
so I hear you. But how long did it take for those coaches to set in? Outside of again, like a Mike Vrabel,
it takes a hot minute. But but that's what I mean by when I said case dependent, because D'Amico Ryan came into a situation where the rookie quarterback had success to even elevate it to a playoff win his first year as a head coach. Mike Vrabel's on pace for the best record in the AFC to the point where he could win a playoff game or two with New England.
I don't really.
Bowles was under Bruce Arians, who built a culture of winning with Tom Brady, and then he took the helm right afterwards to kind of resume the culture going forward. I mean, to try to kind of compare the case, it's difficult because there's all very unique situations and it's constantly changing. So it's very case dependent. I think the biggest factor in all of them is patience from the organization and from those that pay the bills. I'll be vocal as a Jets fan. I'll never have any faith in this organization to change so long as Woody Johnson is owning this team. But I will always be optimistic about it.
I hear you, and I feel like even to the names that you point out with McVay and Matt LaFleur, and even it's been terrible now, but even Stefanski, right? Like his first year, it wasn't terrible, and with Joe Flacco, they go to the playoffs and different things like that, right? Like these offensive minded head coaches, Sean Payton in Denver. His first year, they're a game away from making the playoffs, and obviously we know why they didn't make the playoffs with the whole Russ situation. But all of these offensive, it's like the culture set in so much faster than, let's say, even with D'Amico Ryans you brought up, it was almost like an anomaly because of the fact that like the league wasn't ready for C.J. Stroud. They were like, "Who is this guy? He is just really good. Like this guy is just really, really good." I don't know if it was solely a D'Amico Ryans thing there. Mike Vrabel, I don't even count because he's not coming from a defensive coordinator position. He was a head coach previously. They already know the culture that he set in Tennessee. So him mirroring that culture in New England and coming from the Bill Belichick stock, that's just like, oh, we just went back to Coach Bill, who's a little bit lesser on the intensity level, right? So it's just like something that I think that they were kind of already used to potentially. But like I said, I look at guys like Raheem. I look at guys like you said, Aaron Glenn. I look at guys like I said, Robert Saleh. I look at guys that have a defensive-minded background that go to these teams, and I'm like, it just seems like to me at least, it takes a little bit longer for teams to buy in to a defensive-minded head coach. And I think it's because defensive-minded head coaches not only, like I said, with the reasonings for the offensive side. But I think defensive-minded head coaches, they're so philosophy-driven that sometimes there's not a tangible evidence until you see it produce on the field, right? Like an offensive-minded head coach, you can be like, hey, we're going to run this play. We're going to score a touchdown. And it works. Like as an OC, you know what plays beat what coverage is. And as long as you execute, like, yeah, we're going to. And it's like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. He said, if I did this was going to happen. And we scored. He's right? I can buy into that, as opposed to defensive guys are typically more philosophy driven. Like, listen, if everybody does their job, if you just do your job, if you there's no real tangible, hey, listen, if we do this, and that, we're definitely going to get a sack. They're not saying that, So I don't know, but maybe that's just me. That's a theory that I have, ladies and gentlemen. But anywho, we're going to jump into our topics for today. And we're going to start with our Thursday Night Football recap. It actually, don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. You ain't got to do all that, Juan. You ain't got to do all that flexing,
You live in the Motor City, you flex when the Honolulu Blue wins. You just have to do that.
You ain't got to do all that. But if you don't know, the Dallas Cowboys faced the Detroit Lions in Detroit this past Thursday, with the Lions taking the victory 44-30. CeeDee Lamb ended up leaving the game, I believe, in the second quarter, right before the half, with a concussion. So he was not able to finish the game. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was questionable even going into the game with an ankle injury, looked like he shouldn't even have been on the injury report. Absolutely phenomenal game. I want to hear your thoughts. Juan, I'll start with you. Talk to me about Thursday's football game.
A very much needed win, not only for the Detroit Lions, but for the city of Detroit too. With the expectations coming into the year being a repeat of last year, to keep the season alive and the playoff push afloat, this win was just so impactful for what the Lions needed. This team is injured to hell and back in terms of just how many pieces are missing. And with the Cowboys coming into town, riding the hot streak that they were on, the 2-game win streak that they were coming in with, there was a lot of belief that Detroit's defense wasn't going to do enough to hold back the dome, and Detroit's offense didn't have the protection it needed to keep Jared Goff afloat to manage the offense well enough to move down the field. Watching the game, you could see that there's still a fight, and there's still that grit energy, that there's still something to play for this Detroit team. The offense went off against what is supposed to be a much improved Cowboys defense. I mean, trying to get the right count, 5 total touchdowns, I believe, scored by the Detroit Lions, 3 by Jahmyr Gibbs alone. Jared Goff only sacked once, and he was only pressured on 25% of his snaps, so protection really held up for the Lions offensive line, who could have used another infusion of a good of a good interior offensive lineman. Shout out to Frank Ragnow. Sorry, you couldn't come back, man. And overall, they did what they were supposed to do. They played Lions football. They ran it down. They tried to run it down the running game wasn't working, but when the run plays were explosive, they were explosive enough to make a difference. The passing game was conservative enough to where they have to make big plays. Again, they can make it. On the other side of the ball, the Cowboys lit them up for over 400 yards of total offense. Dak had a day despite having 2 turnovers on the day. But the biggest takeaway of the whole game is you losing Brian Branch for the season to an Achilles tear. It is a devastating loss to what is already an injury riddled secondary. You lost Terrion Arnold to a shoulder injury for the season last week. You still have DJ Reed manning your cornerback 1 and Amik Robertson your cornerback 2, but you are very thin in the secondary overall. So who's supposed to step up? James Maddox, Daniel Thomas, Rock Yassin. These are the names of the reserves that they have in the secondary. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the defensive side of the ball adapts going forward, especially when they face the Rams the week after.
Yeah. Very, very, very interesting game. I've got some thoughts about some of your comments, but I'll go to Darius first. Talk to me. What were your thoughts about this game? Juan did allude to it being a very important game for both teams. Both teams in the hunt at this point for the playoff race, and the percentages would have dropped drastically for whoever lost the game. Obviously, it ended up being Dallas. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think coming into Thursday night's game, what were the expectations, right? You were kind of like Dak's getting hot. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs last Thursday on Thanksgiving. So Dallas has some momentum, right? And the biggest question with Detroit, like Juan said, was injuries and their defense. And one thing that I took notice of was the way they were able to really get pressure on Dak Prescott, right? 2 costly turnovers. One and I believe it was the second quarter coming out of halftime, then the last one to end the game, basically, right? And Avery, you alluded to it, like Dallas really needed to win this game because their playoff hopes, they dropped. Like now you're still kind of in the hunt because you can still possibly, win a division depending on what Philly does, because Philly's schedule is a little bit tougher than Dallas' schedule. But I want to give a shout out to 2 people, right? I want to give a shout out to defensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions. Yes, they gave up 400 yards, but when it mattered the most, they got pressure and they got the turnovers that they needed, and they ultimately got the win. I think the defense have really kept them in that game. And then Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, 3 touchdowns just by himself. Like, we need to really start talking about him as the offensive player of the year candidate. Obviously, we know the MVP award is a quarterback award, so we're not even going to have those conversations, especially if Saquon couldn't win it. But I'm doubling down what I said, I believe 2 weeks ago last week. I still think the Detroit Lions are not going to make the playoffs because the NFC is just that good, right? Like, they're still technically, if I'm not mistaken, in the hunt because you still have Seattle and you still have San Fran, who both have, I think, 3 and 4 losses. So Detroit has the possibility of winning 12 games, 11 games, and missing the playoffs just because how good the NFC is, right? But what I liked about Detroit, again, just getting the pressure on Dak Prescott, being able to move the ball, Jared Goff, being a game manager, taking some shots down the field. I also think it's a different game if CeeDee Lamb stays in the game. I think Dallas somehow makes it a more competitive game if CeeDee Lamb doesn't get down. We saw what Pickens was doing. Pickens was not – he wasn't locked in. He was lazy on his routes. He wasn't making the contested catches that he was supposed to be making. He wasn't the Pickens that we saw in the beginning of the season. But there's still hope for Dallas for them to possibly win a division, and that's the only reason why they could possibly make the playoffs. For Detroit, they're going to have to win out, and they're going to need a lot of help. But overall, it was a really, really good game. I enjoyed it, and I had Jahmyr Gibbs in my fantasy, so I was happy with those 37 points that he gave me. So shout out to Big Bro, man. Appreciate you.
I dig it. Listen, Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely a beast. He's an animal. He's a problem. He's a difference maker and a game changer on the field. Literally, at any point, he can take it to the clip. He's one of those guys where it's just like you give him just an inch of space and it's kind of game time. It's game over from there. So he's absolutely a phenomenal player, big play guy. Offensive player of the year, I can get with him being in the conversation. I don't want to have too much recency bias. I still think Jonathan Taylor has been balling like out of his mind this year. So I don't want to have recency bias and overlook him, who's leading the league in rushing and the rushing touchdown. We were talking about him in the MVP conversation just 2 weeks ago, right? So I don't want to have any recency bias there, but I'm with the conversation of him being in the conversation for offensive player of the year. Definitely an absolute beast. I think though for me, there were 3 glaring things for me that I looked out for this game. Number 1, CeeDee Lamb going out. I agree with you, Darius. I think if CeeDee Lamb doesn't go out, I think it changes the game a little bit. I'm not saying they would have won, but they had no answers for CeeDee Lamb, right? It didn't matter who they threw at him. The Detroit Lions had no answer for CeeDee Lamb. The only answer they had for him was pass rush. If we can get to Dak before he can get the ball to CeeDee Lamb, then we'll have some success, because CeeDee Lamb was route running all over whoever they threw at him, whether it was Amik, whether it was Branch, whether it did not matter. It's like CD was absolutely cooking. And I said this before, I'll say it again. I think the CD has the best first down Selly Jones in the league. Like coming from the Smith to the cook and serve is hard. It's too
illegal now. This one's just illegal now.
I know, but they're both hard. And that's how you know he's nice. He's like, "Oh, you want to take this from me? Okay, bet. Here, take this. Let me serve that up for you." I love it. So I love it, and it's kind of a I believe it's an ode, a nod to a former Dallas great in Zeke, who, feed me, okay, let me cook it up for you. You know what I'm saying? So, I think CD could have potentially changed that game. The second thing is the pressure from Detroit. I think Dak, held the ball a little too long at times, right? I think he needs to start throwing the ball away. I understand that he has dynamic receivers and they are able to make plays when the play breaks down, and they've got that chemistry and different things like that. But when you know you're going against a Detroit team with a guy named Aiden Hutchinson, who every year could be in consideration for Defensive Player of the Year, you got to have a clock in your head and say, listen, man, and knowing that your offensive line isn't what it used to be, you gotta have that clock in your head. No, I gotta get the ball out. Obviously they're the one sack where it could have been called a safety. It's one of those situations, like at that point you got to know how this game is about to go. This guy he's just that dominant, man. The dude is a beast. So you got to have that internal clock in your head and say, okay, we got to get the ball out. And keeping with that side of the ball for Dallas, the drops are pretty frustrating for Dak. If I'm honest, I can see it in his face where it's just like, okay, listen, man, I'm making the right reads, I'm making the right throws. You guys gotta help me out, right? Even Jake Ferguson's fumble, right? You see Dak go to him afterwards, like, we can't have that, dude. Like, no, you're not getting the first down here. Go down, let's punt the ball, field position. Let our defense, do your job, just do your job, right? I think Dak realized the importance of that game, and I think he was, in my opinion, the hungriest player on the field for his team, and I think he was let down a little bit by his team, where it's just like, yo, we have a chance here. Like, we legit have a chance here. Like, our offense is humming. We don't know what's going on with Philly. We have a chance to get in, and all we need is to get in, and then it's any man's game, right? And I think he felt that. And then, the third thing that was glaring for me is the CeeDee Lamb situation. I know that, we said that Aiden is a beast, period. Cowboys. I mean, I feel you, Coach. That's how you feel. But there were multiple routes that George just looked like he didn't finish. He didn't look like he was engaged in the route. And I think, and this is my personal opinion, I think the penalties got into his head, right? I think that, especially one in particular, the pass interference call on him that took away a really big play for Dallas, I think that got into his head where he's like, hey, man, y'all not calling this thing straight. Like, and I'm not one of those people that blame the refs, but there were some questionable calls on the Dallas end that I can't overlook. I'm like, hold on, yo. Like, I know, and this is where, like, people get that thing where it's just like, oh, is it scripted? Is it yada yada? And I understand the narrative sometimes, because when you see this game and you see some of the calls that the refs made against Dallas, I'm like, come on, man. Like CD did not, that wasn't pass interference. I'm sorry, that was not pass interference. He looked like he was running his route and he got stopped up by a defender who didn't know which way to go. That's not his fault. But I think that got into his head and he kind of checked out like, yeah, we're not winning this. They're going to make sure that we don't win this game. Like, I'm good off this. Like, we not beating the refs and the Lions. Like, that's too much to overcome. So I don't know, but that's the vibe I was getting into. Juan, I said there were some comments that you stated. This kind of goes into that narrative thing that I was talking about, right? Who would you rather see in the playoffs more, Detroit or Dallas? I think the reality is, in large part, people would rather see Detroit because how long they were a dumpster fire, the story of this redemptive quality that the Lions have and how Dan Campbell shifted this team around and what happened to them the last 2 years in the playoffs, losing in the NFC Championship game. They were so close. And then having the number 1 seed and then losing in a bad way to the Washington Commanders of all teams. And then they come into, and obviously they were injured, then they come in this season with high expectations, but they lose their offensive coordinator. And now they're dealing with these injuries and stuff. And it feels like they're setting up this narrative again for the Lions, and especially around the injuries. It's always, the Lions and the injuries, the Lions and the injuries. The Falcons lost their quarterback for the season. Drake London has been injured most of the season. The Chiefs did not have Rashee Rice or Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown hasn't been fully healthy. Xavier Worthy hasn't been fully healthy. So who's to say that if they were clicking from the start of the season that their record wouldn't be different? You look at the Ravens with not having Matt BK and Lamar Jackson missing games. There's injury, but it seems like there's always, Detroit is riddled with injuries. And it's like they're setting up this narrative. Now, with all that being said, I am not saying that there is any type of collusion going on, any type of foul play or anything like that. I am saying that it makes me question whether or not we are giving a little bit too much, and I don't even know the words to say, to Detroit in that regard, because I'm like, man, I get it. I would rather see Detroit in the playoffs over Dallas because Dallas is notoriously shown us they get to the playoffs and they just get bounced. Detroit is at least competitive. But some of the things I'm like, all right, man, I'm just connecting some dots here, and it raises eyebrows. That's all I'm saying.
I will say this. I'll say a few points. Number one, the most viewed regular season game in NFL history was Dallas Cowboys versus the Kansas City Chiefs. So there's nothing you can say.
I was just about to say that.
Wanting to see the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. Cowboys fans are all over this country. They're probably the biggest fan base in the NFL. So I would not say that.
You missed what I was saying there. It's not about the fans.
The NFL would want the Cowboys in the playoffs, man. But Jerry Jones was doing everything in his power.
Not if
the NFL did not want the Cowboys in the playoffs. There would be no way that Dallas would have had the run of
next man up mentality
to be able to do so.
Not if you're just going to get bounced. That's the issue. See, the thing with Dallas is it's like, okay, if they get to the playoffs, people want to see them compete. They know that this team, let's call it what it is. If Dallas is making the playoffs, do we really think that they're beating?
We didn't think Washington was gonna be able to beat the people that they beat in the playoffs last year, and look on the run that they made. The NFL,
and nobody cares.
Avery.
Nobody cares.
Avery. There's no collusion to this. I don't think so. If there was a collusion, it would have been on the Cowboys' benefit, not Detroit's benefit. That was totally a pass interference call against Jake Ferguson.
I think
I've been seeing it all over Twitter. People complaining about there was no push off. He was wrapping him up. No, there was push off. That was push off. That was that was the same play that got Brian Branch injured.
We've seen the NFL refs literally call games differently for the Chiefs We've seen them get fired because they call games differently for the Chiefs. And you're going to tell me that there's not a possibility that's happened. That's bias. Let's be real here.
Why wasn't that sack called safety?
Let's be real.
Like if it was if the ref were
because by the rule, because by the rule
would have been called the safety.
No, it wouldn't, because the rule is when you get contacted.
What you're claiming is that there's some sort of like
what's the rule
going into it.
What's the rule?
That would have been a safety call.
What's the rule? When you get contacted, the entirety of the ball has to be in the end zone for it to be considered a safety. When he was contacted, the ball was outside of the end zone. That's why it's not a safety. It has nothing to do with the player. It's everything
the defender. That is
now you're moving the goalposts. Now you're moving the goalposts.
There's no goalposts to move. If you're claiming to go by the textbook, then the textbook was called. That if they didn't,
you just talked about the safety
because the ball wasn't in the
end. That wasn't called
because there was
a push-up on
the LPI.
Because it wasn't a safety.
I'll say this, fellas. You're talking about the refs. Darren made a great point about injuries, right? And Avery, you talked about it. It's really the next man up, right? Every team has injuries. Every team has some type of adversity. But that's where the coach comes in, right? That's where you talk about having a great coach or having a great coach. So it's the next man up. Yes, Detroit for the last 3 seasons has been banged up, right? That's fine. That's going to happen. It's a part of the game. But that's where you got to, like you said, do your job. Next man up, right? You look at the New England Patriots. Milton Williams went down, right? Will Campbell went down. And they went out there on Monday night. And granted, the Giants are a better team than their record shows. I don't care what nobody says. That's a very solid team, and they're going in. They're going in the right direction. They're a few pieces away, just like we talked about the Jets. It's the next man up mentality. As a coach, and in anything, you're supposed to be able to, motivate your players, regardless if you're a starter, regardless if you're on a practice squad, regardless of your position. You're supposed to be able to motivate your players and tell them, hey, listen, at any given moment, your number might be called because this person might get hurt. I'm not wishing that upon somebody, but that's just the reality of the sport that you play. So when it's your time to go in, you're supposed to do your job. And I think that's what separates the guys like the Dan Campbells from the, I don't want to compare him to Bill Belichick, but Bill Belichick was notorious for saying, do your job, right? Like, make the play. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything fancy.
And I agree with that 100%, right? I think 2 things can be true, right? It is next man up mentality without question, but I also think that there's certain players that are just like, it's not that they're irreplaceable, but their impact because of their IQ is irreplaceable, right? So somebody like Brian Branch, that's a guy where it's just like you lose Brian Branch, that's a huge hole in your defense. Like,
absolutely.
So I'm not saying that these injuries are just like, oh yeah, they're trying to create an error. No, losing Brian Branch for the season is huge. Losing Terrion Arnold, not so much, right? It's not as it is effective because he's your number 1 corner, but it's not as impactful as somebody, right? But he's not as impactful as somebody like Brian Branch. Brian Branch does things that you're like, that's intangible. You can't coach that. You can't scheme that. He just knew what to do.
This team's already missing so many key players on that side of the ball too. Like you're missing Kirby Joseph, the last year's interception leader, as well because of a nagging knee injury. Brian Branch down too. Like that safety combo was one of the deadliest in the NFL last year. It's been broken apart so many times this year. Now you don't have either one of them. So depth's going to be real important. And, I'll give Kelvin Shepard all the credit in the world. He went to the Aaron Glenn school of motivating guys up, and he has motivated these guys to where they need to be. Now it's just a matter of keeping that motivation going. And, they have a huge test coming up out in LA where they've owned the Los Angeles Rams in 3 straight matchups. Can they make it 4 in enemy territory? Because the last 3 matchups have all been in Detroit.
And so that's that. So the reason I say what I said about the injury narrative is we're not hearing it for any other team. That's the reason I'm like, it's only Detroit that I'm hearing it from. And I think it's because of obviously the expectation, right? Going into the season, I think everybody thought Detroit was going to be at the top or near the top of the NFC, right? And so because they're not, it's like, well, what's the reason, right?
No, the Chargers too. we're also hearing it for the Chargers too, with how much Justin Herbert's been injured.
Not the way
all of his offensive.
It's not the
it's
same
not the-
with Detroit.
First of all, it's not the same, and it's not the same positions. You're talking about your starting quarterback versus, your safeties, right? It's a little bit different. You're going to I think if you're going to hear anything for the Chargers, it's like, okay, they could potentially lose their starting quarterback. That's huge, obviously. And then you look at their backfield, right? You lost your starting running back for the season, and then the guy who was supposed to be starting, he's on IR for how long? And so it's just like,
and both of your tackles, man, like both of your premier starting left and right tackles.
But again, you're still not hearing about it to the level that you're hearing about it. And I think, again, from the standpoint of the expectation for the Chargers wasn't the same for Detroit.
That was the biggest thing.
The expectation for the Chargers is like, they're going to be good. They're going to run the ball. Can they score enough points?
They're not going to be Super Bowl favorites.
They're not favorites in the AFC.
Yeah.
They probably weren't even favorites in their division.
Detroit was one of the teams.
Probably looked at as like, hey, man, this could be 1, 2, or 3 seed for real. For real. And so I think that's a part of the reason why we're hearing it more. But again, it just, to me, it seems like it's setting up something for like, if they don't reach the playoffs, it's something to fall back on. Like, oh, well, they were injury riddled. And it's like, everybody got to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I'm not taking away from it. I think two things can be true. These are seriously, like, you lose Amon-Ra, that could have been really bad. Obviously, losing Brian Branch, that's really bad. You mentioned Kirby Joseph. That doesn't help at all, right? And let's go back to last year. Losing Aiden Hutchinson, in my opinion, was the key factor on why they did not beat the Washington in the playoffs. Like, I'm just be completely honest. Like, I think if Aiden Hutchinson is in that game, I don't think Washington stands a chance. I'm just be completely honest. But again, it feels like it's setting up. Feels like it's just setting up a narrative. It's all I'm saying, but that's just me.
If there was such thing as NFL story writers, then the downfall of Nick Sirianni is just pure poetic to me, honestly.
Love every second of it. Love every second of it.
All right, so we're gonna move on to our next topic. And that is very, very, very simple, from first to worst, or from worst to first, however you want to look at it. But we're talking about some teams who are literally at the top of their division, who are no longer there. Okay, they were at the top of their division. Everything was all good just a week ago, and now it's just not the case. And so we want to know: can these teams reclaim the crown? Can they finish out the season strong and end up at the top of the division? We're talking right now in particular about the Steelers, the Colts, and the Packers. Can they reclaim their spot at the top of the division? Obviously, Green Bay, Chicago, they done came through and said, we're going to do what we do. You know what I'm saying? The Steelers, I mean, no comment. And the Colts, I'm going to leave this up to you guys to start, though. Darius, what are your thoughts? Do you believe that any of these teams can go from first to worst back to first? What are your thoughts?
Darren gonna love this one, but I'm gonna touch on the. Yep, there we go. Darren already got it right now. The thing with Pittsburgh, I truly believe Pittsburgh they're gonna lose to the Ravens. That's number one. But number two, I think Pittsburgh might actually fall out of the playoff picture completely and possibly get eliminated as the season goes on. And I'm gonna tell you why. And one reason only is because the lack of drafting a actual quarterback. Now, granted, each year Pittsburgh is not really in a position to draft a quarterback because they're always in the playoffs, right? So quarterbacks you are going to be usually picked in the top 10, top 5, right? Pittsburgh has not had a pick there since Mike Tomlin has been the head coach. It's usually, 20s and 20 and down, right? So what they've been doing is, ever since Big Ben left, they've been getting 1 year rentus and getting these quarterbacks, but they never solved the most important position that's in football. You need a quarterback to win in this league. It doesn't matter how good your defense is. And Pittsburgh has a good defense. We talked about it before the season, right? All pros on every level. But you look at that defense in the last coming weeks, they've been getting exposed. Like, teams are starting to understand them. And I remember I was in a barbershop, actually, and my barber's a Steelers fan, and he said something. It's kind of a hot take. He was like, yo, we need to fire Mike Tomlin. We need to just completely rebuild. And I actually think it's time. And they need to address the most important position, because Aaron Rodgers was never going to be the answer. No matter what you thought he was. Yes, in week 1, he had a really great revenge game against the Jets. It's against the Jets. The team let him go, right? Of course he's going to have a revenge game. But you watch him throughout the season, and he's not the same Aaron Rodgers. And you're really relying on your defense to continuously keep you in games season after season, because they failed to replace Big Ben, right? That was the number one thing going to New England. You really failed to replace Tom Brady. But you had Cam Newton, you had Mac Jones, you had Jarrett Stidham, right? Bailey Zappi. Now you finally got your guy. Pittsburgh needs to have their guy, and it's gonna be, they have to draft a quarterback, and they just need to completely rebuild. And I think we're starting to see the fall. We joked about it a little bit before the segment. The Philadelphia Eagles. We're starting to see the fall of the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? We're starting to see it. We're starting to see the cracks. I think after this season, just like we talked about, I think it was 2 weeks or a week ago with Andy Reid, if the Chiefs miss the playoffs, I think Andy Reid retires or Andy Reid steps down. If the Steelers miss the playoffs, I think it's time for the Steelers and Mike Tomlin to part ways and completely rebuild the entire organization and address the most important position, because they don't have to pay a quarterback for the next 6-7 years, right? The way they're structured, they don't have to pay the quarterback for the next 6-7 years with how the team is structured. So you don't have to worry about cap issues, especially with TJ Watt's contract obviously going to expire, and Jalen Ramsey, those guys you paid. So that's why I think the Steelers, I think they're going to lose to Baltimore, and that's when we're really going to start to have those conversations. And the narrative, what Avery like to say today, I think the narrative is going to be is it time for Tomlin is it time for Steelers and Tomlin to part ways?
This Steelers team is the ultimate representation of what the Mike Tomlin era has kind of fallen into. It is old, it is slow,
0 playoff wins,
and it's not adapting either. This Steelers defense especially does not do a good job of adapting into the second half after falling behind in the first half. I'll watch the Bills game for a good example of that. I've seen all over Twitter, and this one film buff broke down saying how the Bills ran 2 different versions of the same run play several times, and it worked several times to the point where they set a new rushing record at Heinz Field. I'm not calling it Acrisure, it's Heinz Field. Not on top of that, when your quarterback is 42, your top rated cornerback is 34, 35. When your pass rush is looking like it can qualify for AARP or AAA, it is getting to the point where you need to get younger, you need to get faster, you need to do it quickly. How much of it is how much of it is Tomlin's fault versus GM? Like, it's hard not to see it with bad drafting combined with non-adaptable coaching. I think the Rooneys need to do the one thing that they have refused to do since the Mike Noll era. They need to fire a head coach. They have not fired a head coach, and it's so long as I can remember. And Tomlin needs a fresh start. I think he's done so much in Pittsburgh. I think he needs to pull an Andy Reid. He's done all he can do in Pennsylvania. He needs to go find another challenge somewhere else. I feel like Mike Tomlin is a great coach with a great message, but he has to do it in an environment that feels like a fresh start instead of trying to restart a culture that has long been dead.
Okay.
So wait, I didn't answer the question. In terms of whether to make it back, looking at the schedule simply, you will lose to the Ravens. The Dolphins game right afterwards is literally a coin flip just because of how quickly Miami has been able to turn things around, although I can't tell whether or not they're a paper tiger in disguise. Then you have the Lions at Ford Field, then the number one then one of the top ranked defenses in the NFL against the Cleveland Browns, which I think is going to murder Aaron Rodgers. And then you finish the year off hosting the Ravens again, which again might be a coin flip because of how this matchup goes. But I'm only seeing maybe one win out of these last 5 game slates. And then if that happens, not only does Tomlin lose that spectacular golden goose of having having non-losing season streaks, but you missed the playoffs completely, man. And that I feel like is warranting a firing.
All right.
Like go.
I'm gonna have to address a couple things here. First, to you, Darius. Andy Reid stepping down after one. This brother was in the Super Bowl last year. They had one bad season.
He's old.
Which again, injuries.
We're something to play for.
What? He had
What is he
one
coaching for?
bad season, and we're writing Andy Reid off because of one. And again,
I have to disagree with you on that one, Darius.
it's not even.
What is he coaching for? He has the
It's
Super Bowl.
It's not even like it's a terrible season. It's just not up to par.
That's like
He
Joe
has
Belichick
the
in the early
Super Bowl.
2010s.
He
You're comparing like it when Belichick didn't make the
Fellas.
Super Bowl all those times. What was he coaching for?
Fellas, he has nothing to he has the Super Bowls.
He
It's
has
time
everything to
cut
coach
down.
for.
That's all I'm saying. Just you have the Super Bowls. You don't need to
You
coach
don't
anymore.
want. You know what it is? You don't want him coaching because your Patriots are good again. That's
I
what
didn't
it
say
is.
that.
You don't want him coaching because you know that
That
they
has
are
nothing to do
probably
with that.
still the biggest threat to
Just
that
like a
dynasty
Patriots fan
returning.
to get that underhanded move going.
That's what it is. You don't
Yeah.
want that dynasty to continue. So you like, we got.
It's
the new
not a
Patriots
dynasty.
coming. Yeah, I'm saying. So I think that's what it is. But I'm not. If I'm not even sneezing at retirement. Get out of here. What? We had one bad season. Absolutely not. I do not like that take at all. That is terrible. Give me Andy Reid 10 times out of 10. So that's the first thing. The second thing is both of y'all tripping. Mike Tomlin does not need to get fired. Now, if Mike Tomlin wants to step away, I understand that. Juan, I would agree with you there. If he wants to step away and go to a completely different team, more quality help on the O-line, the rest of the team ain't too bad. Exactly. I agree. I understand it. But getting fired, you don't fire a culture setter like Mike Tomlin. I agree with you, Juan, with your take about the GM. Mike Tomlin's going to do what he has to do with what's given to him on the field, and he's going to coach them up. They're going to compete every week. They're going to, again, not have losing seasons. Mike Tomlin has shown that he can do. Let's not forget, y'all. This is the same coach who, again, has not had a losing season in over 15 years. And he has had quarterbacks at the helm with the names of Randolph, Kenny Pickett, terrible Russell Wilson. These are, and still has not had a losing season.
How many playoff wins has he
You
had?
forgot the greatest quarterback of all time and Duck Hodges.
Bruh, you don't fire a culture setter like that. That's the difference between Mike Tomlin coaches and sets culture. A lot of these guys, a lot of these new age coaches, and Mike Tomlin said this on the Pivot Podcast, shout out to the Pivot Podcast, they shy away from coaching. They shy away from developing guys. Mike Tomlin does not shy away from that. He coaches, and that in turn sets the culture. I'm sorry, but for me, there's a handful of coaches that I would want to play for in the league. He tops the list. The only disparaging remarks I've ever heard come from a player was recently from James Harrison, and he admitted that there was bias because of the fact that Mike Tomlin chose not to play him. So there's bias. So your take even in there, granted you admitted it, I got to throw it out with the bathwater because it's like, hey, bro, you just admitted that there's bias because you was hurt that he didn't play you. And you said that he's a good coach. You just didn't consider him a great coach because he didn't play you. Get out of here. You do not throw that type of coach away. That's the reason Harbaugh in Baltimore has not been thrown away. That's the reason why Andy Reid, even after the season, there's no conversation about Andy. Oh my God, is it time for me? That's the reason Sean Payton was able to leave on his own terms. You do not throw coaches like that away. Now, I'll say this, Mike Tomlin, if you like a change of scenery, there's this place in Georgia called Atlanta that could use your talents.
Man, the bias on this podcast is insane.
You know what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Oh, I admit my bias there.
Avery, Tomlin needs to go. And
he does.
Tomlin needs to go.
It has to happen.
It has to happen.
It has to happen.
The Tomlin era in Pittsburgh has ended. The culture that he built there, he was only saying that because you're talking about Harbaugh. Well, no, that's not true because he wants Harbaugh to go.
He wants Harbaugh to
go. I will say,
but he's another one.
I will say, Tomlin has to go. The Tomlin message is not permeating through the locker room or the organization.
Yes,
the message can work in other locations. I will admit that is true. But the era is over in Pittsburgh. It is.
I have a question.
You pointed out the age of that roster, right? Did Tomlin do that, or did the GM do that? Tomlin has to.
But Tomlin definitely has a say.
Tomlin has just as a say.
Hear me. I'm not saying that he does not have a say, okay? But he doesn't have the final say. At the end of the day, the GM is the one on the hook for who he brings in the building. So even though he may have a say, he's not fully influencing what if he's a good GM, he's not fully influencing what the GM is doing. That's number one. Number two, we have to understand, again, that roster, the way it's built, is built to honestly just compete, not get over the hump. And then you look at the reality of the situation. Aaron Rodgers is really good. He's one of the greatest talented quarterbacks of all time. He's 42 years old. Okay? You got Jalen Ramsey, who's now playing safety. You got, I don't think people are putting into the reality of what is being put out on that field, bro. And he still has this team competing. Okay, you mean to tell me? And let's not even talk about the offensive coordinator.
You're missing. I think you're missing.
You mean to tell me if this team was coached by Mike McDaniel, they'd be better?
Offensively, probably.
Heck no.
Yeah.
Offensively, absolutely.
No, they wouldn't.
Offensively, absolutely.
Yeah, probably.
Absolutely, offensively.
No, they wouldn't.
Mike McDaniels, he's not a good coach.
Here's the reason why.
Warren would be the new HN.
Here's the reason why. Number one.
Look what he's doing with Tua.
Yeah. Exactly. Number one, you need a moldable, malleable mind for that offense. Aaron Rodgers ain't going for it. He's been in the league too long. He's going to call audibles and checks and be like, "Nah, I don't like that. We're not doing that." Hey, matter of fact, you run this thing. And then the second reason, everything is about timing and finesse in his offense. Aaron Rodgers ain't got that in him no more. He's 42 years old. I'm sorry. That quick twitch ain't there no more. Tua still has the quick twitch. Tua still has the fast release. Tua is a malleable, moldable mind who's like, hey, man, I'm just going with what my OC says, and I'm going to do what he's not calling checks. Aaron Rodgers, that's been one of the biggest knocks on Aaron Rodgers, is that he makes his own plays in the huddle. He's out here doing a Willie Beeman in real time.
Tomlin's had too many chances. I'll say this. You haven't had a playoff win since 2016. You had the division lead for the longest time.
Thank you.
You had it for the first.
What I'm trying. That's my question.
Season, and then the drop off to the point where you've lost their last 3 of 4 games against the Chargers, the Bills, and the Bears. It got to a point where, look, the message is lost. The culture is not there anymore.
No.
The Tomlin era is over. They're not getting first place in the division anymore. And if they don't do that, they are out of the playoff race entirely. Baltimore is taking this one, or Cincinnati, depending on if Joe Burrow goes on a freaking
Avery, let me
if they win the
let me say this real quick.
If they win the division, I want y'all to keep that same energy. Go ahead, Darius.
Let me say this real quick. He has not won a playoff game since 2016.
Sure.
Think about that for a second. He has winning seasons, so he's getting to the playoffs. Cool, great. Oh my God, we're going to the playoffs. Every year he's been to the playoffs, he's lost He's lost. He hasn't won. They haven't won a playoff game. Hold on. Maybe I should have said.
Not enough.
Maybe I should have said
anymore, man.
Remind me who's quarterbacks were.
Don't fire him, but wait. It's time for a new.
And Roethlisberger was still one of those quarterbacks, man.
The Patriots had to do with Bill Belichick. If you look at them, since Brady left, right? First season, 8-9, you draft Mac Jones. Second season, you go to the playoffs. You get decimated by Buffalo, who didn't punt the ball. And then after that, you hired a defensive coordinator as your OC. You at some point you lose your touch and it's time to move on. There's nothing wrong with partying with it's time for a fresh start. If you don't have a fresh start with him, it's gonna be no matter if you fire the GM, it's gonna be the same thing. It's time for a fresh. You have to be able to take that chance as an owner and be like, listen, you know what? We're starting from scratch. We're gonna rebuild. We were this high. Now we got to go low. We're going to get back there. But it's time for them to part. It's time for them to part ways. And my hot take is going to be a team that I think that if he goes there, I think they would be a playoff contender. And it's not Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's not Atlanta.
I'm sorry.
It's not Atlanta.
Disagree.
Let's agree to disagree and move on. Let's agree to disagree and move on.
I don't believe that he needs to be fired. I believe if he decide again, a coach like that, you don't throw that away. You don't do it. That's just me. Even when it came to Belichick, I think it was time for Belichick to go, just from the standpoint of, in my personal opinion, it's just me personally, I don't really think he wanted to coach NFL football anymore. I think he had his mind set on the next phase of his life.
Who knows?
Nah, he still wanted to.
Who knows?
He still wanted to.
No, because
he got that fire.
The reason I say that is because all of the teams that he was interviewing for, it wasn't simply for a head coaching position. He also wanted some type of GM privileges, right? I think he was looking to.
That's what he's used to.
He wasn't necessarily used to that in New England, because we all knew, but he wasn't. You know what I mean?
He was the GM.
Yeah, he was
literally the decision maker.
Yeah,
he was literally the GM and the head coach. But we good.
Yo, we're losing focus.
I'm just saying, like I said, I think it's a situation where you don't get rid of a coach like that. I think you get a GM who knows what he got to do. You know what I'm saying? Go get Ozzie Newsome. Bring him out of retirement, and I'll then talk to me about firing Mike Tomlin. But y'all, I'm trying to. If they win the division, I want that same energy. All right. Now we're gonna jump into.
I'll keep this. When they lose that first playoff game, I'll keep that same energy.
Okay, cool. All right, say less. All right, we're gonna jump into our game picks, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh, you know what?
We didn't talk about the other two teams, man.
Oh, my bad. All right.
We all was on the Steelers. We all agreed.
My bad. I mean, we was on that for a little bit, but okay. All right. So I didn't even give my take there. But I believe that Pittsburgh will. I'm going to say because of the schedule, no. But I believe that they can. I do believe that they absolutely can. It's obviously going to start with this game coming up. I think that's going to be the telltale sign of what is to come for this team. But okay, now I'll go to you, Darius, to start this one. What about the Colts, man? Do you think they can?
I'll keep it quick. I'll keep it quick. I think the Colts, they have a huge test on Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they still have to play the Texans. I can honestly see the Colts not finishing last, but I could see them possibly maybe third, because I think if they lose to Jacksonville and Jacksonville leapfrogs them, and you still have Houston, who's technically only a game behind, and you still play Houston at the end of the season, I can honestly see the Colts, who started off hot, really fizzling down. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. So don't be surprised if the Colts finish like the number three in the division.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I for those who don't know, the Colts' remaining schedule is something nothing to sneeze at. Obviously, it starts with the Jaguars, and then they go and play Seattle in Seattle. Then they have the 49ers, who are 9-4 coming in. Who knows what their record will be by then? Then they face the Jags again, and then they finish the season with the Houston Texans, who, as you just alluded to, are kind of on a very, very good tear right now, and who just beat them. So, Juan, what are your thoughts on the Colts? Do you think that they can string together enough wins, a couple wins? Do you think that the front end of their season was enough momentum for them to get 2 or 3 more wins here at the end and potentially close it out?
This is about to be the biggest regular season collapse I've ever seen, man. I think they're going to lose out
Steelers
the season. But they went 11. They at least got 11 straight in 2020 when they had that collapse. This Colts team is 8-4 and counting. I don't see another win for the rest of the schedule, man. Like the Jaguars are reinvigorated offensively and defensively, especially with how they're able to force so many takeaways and force so many pass deflections as a defense overall. Seattle is as dominant as ever. The 49ers are still a great team. And you had Jacksonville again. And then you're going back into the buzzsaw that is the Houston Texans defense and a CJ Stroud, who will have things figured out by the time that game hits. Daniel Jones playing with a fractured fibula is an issue. I will say, though, he has proven enough to me, at least, that he does deserve at least another year under center in Indy. Time to move on from Anthony Richardson. Jonathan Taylor, in line for a contract extension. You pump that dump truck full of cash over to his house immediately. That man is your offense. You do not let him out the door, no matter what you do. Shout out New Jersey. You just need to continue to rebuild that defense. You need to better up the pass rush as well as shore up the secondary a lot more. I feel like they are close to contending for a playoff spot. This year was a great start. They're fizzling out near the end of it, but the year after, I feel like they'll be in a much better spot. But if I can make a quick comparison, the 2026 Indianapolis Colts are basically the 2021-2022 Arizona Cardinals. First year with D-Hop. Started off hot, fizzled out near the end. That Cardinals team at least made the playoffs, but then they got smacked in the face by the eventual Super Bowl champion LA Rams. If you can remember that really bad throw Kyler had in the end zone.
Yeah. I'm gonna say this, man. I think they have a chance. I guess this is kind of a hot take. I think they sweep the Jaguars. And I think that may be enough to get them in. I don't know though, because the Texans could potentially sweep the Colts, right? I don't know. So it'll be very interesting to see. I think one of the biggest things is obviously, Darius, you pointed out the protection of Daniel Jones, especially with the injury to his leg. I think that's going to be a huge thing to look out for moving forward. But the Jaguars, as good as they are, they're not known for a vaunted pass rush or, stifling defense or anything like that. So I think that the Colts actually win this game. The Seahawks, that's the game where I'm like, okay, that's the toss-up game. I think, can they steal one in Seattle? And if they can, I think they go on a run. I think they beat the 49ers if they can beat Seattle. If they don't beat Seattle, then it'll put in question that 49ers game. But again, if they can beat the Jags, which I think they will in Seattle, I think they then beat the Niners. And then, like I said, I think they sweep the Jags. And now we're looking at potentially a division showdown at the end of the season for the Texans. But it'll be a very interesting thing to see play out. I want to say this, though. And this is not bias. It's just something I noticed because I know, we throw that word bias around it. It's just something. Are the Falcons team breakers? And here's why I say that. Since the win against the Falcons, the Colts have not won a game. Then you look at a team like the Buffalo Bills, who lost to the Falcons, and they have not really been that good this season. I just point it out. You look, I'm just pointing some things. Again, this is not biased because we suck. Like that's part of what it is. We suck. Okay. We absolutely suck. I'm not sitting here saying that the Falcons are this, that, or whatever. I just wonder. I'm like, wait a second. I'm looking at a trend here. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, okay.
I mean, the same argument can be made. Are the Falcons a launching pad? Like, because the Dolphins also started a win streak. The Falcons were part of that win streak. The Patriots are part of that win streak.
No, they're not.
And then you got swept by the
Panthers. We did that when we beat Buffalo.
The Patriots are not part of that win streak. The Falcons were just a casualty on their win streak. They're not part of that win streak.
My point is that like you can make the argument for and the argument against.
You can make an argument for one team, the Dolphins. I can make an argument that the Bucs have not been,
and the Panthers too. The Panthers are really right up through.
Not really. You got the Buccaneers who have been right? You got like I said, the Bills who have been You got the Colts who haven't won a game since. I'm just saying, man. You look at, I don't know, the Jets. I don't think they're going to win another game. Yeah, y'all beat us. I don't think y'all win another game.
I'm gonna take away this pen for you trying to
connect Saints
because it's not there.
The Saints.
This guy, man.
Look at these Saints. I'm just saying.
All I'm saying is, as your fantasy football trades.
All I'm saying is the Seahawks better watch out. They gonna beat us, but who knows what comes after that? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But anyway. Listen, we're going to move on to the last team here, and that is the Packers. Do we think that the Packers can reclaim the number one spot? Talk to me, Juan.
I hate to say it, but I think they can, man. I think one of the biggest, they're walking into their matchup against the Chicago Bears, a 6.5-point favorite, which is pretty disrespectful to what the Bears have been able to accomplish. But the biggest factor with the Bears is that their defense is totally takeaway dependent. They lead the league in takeaways, which takeaways are a great stat, and they're a great indicator of how opportunistic a defense can be. But that's the specific word there, opportunistic. The opportunity has to be there. And Jordan Love, as inconsistent as he can be, when he's on it, he is on it, and he can take care of the ball pretty well, especially with how he's been going on his own tear lately. On the other side of the ball, Caleb Williams, similar to the arguments that you've made, Avery, with regards to Matt Ryan and Dak Prescott holding on to the ball too long, Caleb Williams still holds on to the ball too long. And when you have a vaunted pass rush anchored by Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons breathing down on you, and you're trying to create like a magician in the backfield, that is a recipe for disaster for Caleb. I'll give my first hot take here. I think this is going to be a blowout win by the Packers, man. I think they are going to bury Caleb in the backfield and throw accurately all over this Bears defense. And that's for that. And that's just a stepping stone out of it. I think they lose against Denver. I think that defense is much better and much more disciplined and much more heavy duty, especially in Mile High where it's hard to breathe. Then you're in Chicago for the Bears again. That's a win. I think they beat the Ravens after that, and then they close the season out in Minnesota, and I think they beat whoever's at quarterback for Minnesota there. 4-1 to end the season. I think they have a great chance at reclaiming the division crown as a result.
All right, Darius, what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna be quick. If they beat the Bears, yes. If they lose to the Bears, no. That's all I got to say. I believe in shirtless Ben Johnson. That's
what version of the Packers is going to show up? More frankly, what version of Jordan Love is going to show up?
That's the biggest question.
I think that's really the biggest question. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Juan. I think that's been my biggest gripe with the Packers since he's become the starter. Is the inconsistency, right? Obviously, the talent is there. I mean, you can see it. It's through the roof. I mean, it's shades of Aaron Rodgers, if you will, right? From a talent standpoint and everything like that. But then there's the inconsistency, the decision making in particular, right? It's sometimes you're trying too hard to get a big play, or too hard to make a play, or too hard to show that it's like he's still trying to prove that he's arrived. And it's like, Jordan, you're nice, bro. Like, we know you're nice. Like, just play football, play within the game, and make the plays that are necessary. I do think that's the biggest caveat. Obviously, there's still questions. Who's their number one receiver, right? They don't have a guy that, again, to me, threatens a defense and makes you think about like, oh, we got a game plan against this guy. The game plan is literally stop the run and then make sure Jordan Love doesn't make any extra off-platform plays. Like that's the game plan against the Packers offense, right? So the biggest question is obviously going to be Jordan Love, but I do believe in what you said, Juan. I do believe that they have the possibility to do it. I think they will, and there's a couple of reasons why. One, I don't think that they're going to go 4-1. I think it's maybe more of like a 3-2, but I do believe that they're going to sweep their division, and they are currently sweeping their division. They're 3-0 in the division, and I think that's what's going to do it for them. I don't think that they're going to lose a game in the division at this point right now. To your point, Chicago is extremely turnover dependent. And the inconsistency, let's call it what it is, with Caleb Williams. And he tried to play too much hero ball, which is obviously settled in a little bit with Ben Johnson, who's asked him to stop playing hero ball. And we've seen him actually excel since he stopped. But there's still moments where he's like, all right, brother, you shouldn't make that. For example, playing against, who was it recently, where he ended up giving up a touchdown in the end zone to the Steelers, to TJ Watt. It's like, you trying to run out, that's TJ Watt. You get the ball away. What are you doing? No, throw the ball away. It's not there. That's TJ coming, right? There are a couple guys that's like, that guy's coming, get the ball away. We don't need no hero ball. Micah Parsons is one of them. TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Aiden Hutchinson, you get the ball out. If it ain't there, let's live to see another play. So I think because he still has a little bit of that in him, I think that there's a possibility for the Bears to obviously lose the game. But I actually think they beat the Broncos. I don't think the Broncos are going to just continue to win like this. I think they're going to get at least one more loss this season. I think the Packers will hand them one loss this season. And I do believe that they are going to probably lose to the Ravens. I think that's where I say the 3-2. The reason being is I think the Ravens right now are like, yo, we got a lock on this division right now. When we started off pretty bad, we need to hold on. I think they're going to be fighting every game like it's a playoff game. And so I think those are going to be the two losses, but I think, like I said, they sweep the division. So I do believe that they end up back on top.
When week 17 rolls around and we talk about Packers versus Ravens, I'm gonna enjoy the lively discussion on it because I have a lot of thoughts on what's going to be happening on that one, man.
It's going to be a very interesting game.
And then if I can just add one more point, Jordan Love. Everyone wants Jordan Love to be Aaron Rodgers. He's more of a Jeff Garcia. Let's be honest here. He's good, but he's good. But
that is crazy. That's slightly disrespectful. Slightly disrespectful.
Jeff Garcia was a good player that can put in a good situation.
But I understand what you're saying, though. Like, I understand it, but it's slightly disrespectful, though. Dang, I get it though, Juan. I'm actually not mad at the take, but I can see how somebody be like, yo, that's kind of disrespectful. But hey, I ain't mad at you, dog. I ain't mad at you. All right, listen, let's jump into the game pick.
That's how you really feel, Juan.
Nah, fact.
I am unfiltered. I will never hide my.
All right, let's jump into the game picks, ladies and gentlemen. I want to bring up the current scores. I don't have a graphic for it, but I want to let you all know where we currently are. Okay, there's been a shift. Ladies and gentlemen. All right, Darius, there's been no shift for him. He's in last place at 173-1. But I think the reason that there is in last place right now is because he's playing the game how it's supposed to be played. He's in last place. Some of the picks that he's making, he's like, I just got to go against you guys, right? Just to try to figure out a way to get one up on you guys, right? For example, he was the only person who picked Chicago to beat Philly during the Thanksgiving week, and he actually won that game, right? So, I get the process there. So, but as he said, there's a lot of time left because there's not too much of a disparity. He's just in last place. He's at 120, 73-1. And then you have Coach and the one and only tied for third place at 122, 71 and 1. Thank you, Dallas. You know, that one is going to be an interesting one to watch. You two guys, it's like you both do this thing where you have 1 week where it's just like you go like 10-6 or 11-5, and then the next week you go 8-8. It's very, very strange, you know, and you're flip flopping it. So it'll be very, very. Ravens beating Pittsburgh. Hot take. Henry goes for 3 tutties and 3.
So glad he's not.
Lamar.
Yeah.
So glad he's not on the pod today. This is crazy. Like, this is crazy.
He talking
It gets to a point,
spicy.
man. It gets to a point, man.
And it's a vision game.
If there is a real Ravens fan, he'd know that those kind of matchups, those kind of bluffs do not exist.
Not in
Ravens.
50-yard rushes.
Pretty ground-pounding defensive football, man. How dare you not remember?
My God. Listen on today. All right. Also, you know, there are rumors. Okay. There's rumors. I just want to bring this up since we were talking about the Ravens. There's rumors that Lamar Jackson and multiple other players have all stated that they want Harbaugh gone. There's rumors that Justin Madubuike has already moved and has retired. He is done. He is finished. He has moved out of the city. Anyway, the next, I am in second place at 123, 70-1. I got 1 win up on Coach and Juan. Again, very tight race, you guys. And the CEO, collusion, the CEO has come from worst to first, ladies and gentlemen. Now, mind you, I gotta watch Bills versus Steelers. You gotta run for 199. Anyway,
and remember the last time Ravens had a breakout run like that?
Nah, facts. I gotta say this. I gotta give it up for the CEO because there have been multiple weeks where he has forgotten to give us a pick, right? And he is now in first place. For those of you who don't know how this works, if you don't make your pick, you take an L for that game. He's done this multiple times this season, and he is still in first place right now. I don't know which is more telling. Is he that good or are we that bad? Like, I don't know which one it is. I don't know what it is.
Two things can be true.
I got to give a shout out to the CEO. Shout out to you in first place at 125. 68 and 1. Excuse me, I misspoke earlier. 125, 68 and 1. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to know if you got any hot takes. Okay, I just want to drop it out here. I know we heard a couple spicy takes in throughout this podcast, but I want to know, Darius, do you have any hot takes before we close out?
Yes, sir. So my hot take is, after this season is done and the Pittsburgh Steelers miss the playoffs for the first time in Mike Tomlin's career, Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin will part ways.
That's not a hot take, but all right.
Hold on. And the team that he goes to is the Cleveland Browns. I think Mike Tomlin, Myles Garrett, they go to the Cleveland Browns, and he makes something shake with the Cleveland Browns, baby. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're saying he's, oh my God, in division, Darius.
In division, Cleveland fires Stefanski. They go get Tomlin.
Oh, that's
Cleveland go get their quarterback,
and
they make they make some things shake, baby.
If he does that,
sir.
The first thing he has to do is cut Deshaun Watson, man. That is the first course of action.
Yes, sir.
God. Imagine Mike Tomlin and Shedeur Sanders on the same team, man. That would be freaking crazy.
Hey, it's called the hot take for a reason. You get to play the team that parted ways from you twice. Why? You know the NFL don't make it a Sunday night game when they first play.
Mm-hmm. Man.
That might be one of the hottest takes in Air Out Football podcast.
We got to put that in the Hall of Fame right there, baby.
Hey, we got to get that like on a poster board somewhere. Like, hottest take of the show.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
All right.
I like it. I'm not mad at it, but he needs to be in Atlanta. Juan, hot takes.
I think that this. I'm looking. Can we do the game picks first and then give my hot take because it ties in?
Okay, that'll work. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to jump into the game picks. Let's go ahead and do this. Wait, hold on. Show my meme for that take.
We did. We did.
He's like, I show it again.
You're too late. You're delayed, sir. All right, I'll start with you, Juan. Give us your game pick, sir.
I think Seattle over Atlanta. I think the Bengals upset the Bills with the return of Joe Shiesty. I think Jane Daniels coming back is going to help the Commanders beat the Vikings. I think that the Jets will beat the Dolphins, especially in that slick new rivalry uniform that they're going to be wearing. That thing's going to look so tight. I think the Buccaneers beat the Saints. I do believe that the Colts will beat the Jaguars. I think the Ravens beat the Steelers, the Broncos beat the Raiders, the Packers beat the Bears, the Rams beat the Cardinals. I pick Houston to beat the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, and the Chargers to beat the Eagles on Monday night. Now to my hot take. Specifically, I'm talking about the Browns-Titans game. Basically, barrel of the barrel. I'm scraping it specifically because all eyes will be on number 95 for Cleveland for that game. Myles Garrett currently has 19 sacks on the season right now. In the last 6 games alone, he's recorded 15 of them. He's had a 4-sack performance and a 5-sack performance. And Cam Ward is currently the most sacked quarterback in the NFL at 48. My hot take for today is that Myles Garrett breaks the sack record against the Tennessee Titans. He will have 5 sacks against the Titans. 5. He will. Cam Ward's going to be the victim of a record-breaking performance, man.
Wow. Listen, I'm not mad at that. Honestly, like it's a situation where if they don't throw 3 guys at Myles Garrett, like I can see that happening for sure. Listen, I'll go further with your hot take. Myles breaks the single game sack record in that game.
That's 8 sacks. He needs 8 sacks to do that, man.
He breaks the single game sack record in that game. Like listen, I don't honestly, I think the game plan, if they're smart, is get the ball out fast and let's try to protect our quarterback. So I maybe
the game plan doesn't work because just like Dak Prescott and just like Matt Ryan, Cam Ward holds on to the ball.
He does, but I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. All right, Darius, talk to us. Game pick, sir.
Yes, sir. So we're going to start with the Jets and the Dolphins. I'm sorry, Juan, but the Dolphins are kind of getting hot at the right time. I can see the Dolphins winning by a field goal. Steelers, Ravens. I like the Ravens in this one. They're home. Saints, Buccaneers, a weird game. I think the Saints kind of jump out. They start off hot, but then Tampa Bay kind of settles in and they get the win. Jaguars, Colts. This is a really good game. It just depends. Is Jonathan Taylor going to show up or can the Jacksonville Jaguars stop him? I can see the Jaguars winning that one. Titans, Browns, dumpster bowl. I think the Browns are going to get a win. Their defense is too good. The battle of the rookie quarterbacks. I think Shador is going to make the plays when it matters the most. Vikings, Commanders, JD5 coming back. I definitely think Commanders are going to win that one. Seahawks, Falcons. I think a very underrated game just because the Falcons defense isn't bad, and I think they're going to rattle Sam Darnold. I might do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the Falcons. I think the Falcons they get a win. They're going to upset the Seattle Seahawks at home. Bengals, Bills. I'm going to take the Bengals. They're getting hot. They're one of those teams that when they get hot at the right time, they get hot, and they're getting hot. Broncos, Raiders. Kind of a trap game for the Broncos, but I think the Broncos somehow managed to get away with that one. They're going to barely win that game. Bears, Packers. Come on now. You know how I'm around them. I'm going with shirtless Ben Johnson. Give me the Bears. Rams, Cardinals. I'm going to take the Rams. I think Jacoby Brissett is good, but it's just the Rams offense is too much. Texans, Chiefs, my explainer game. I'm going to take the Texans just because of one reason and one reason only, their defense. Simple as that. They're going to. Do you remember the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against Kansas City where Pat Mahomes was running? You're going to see that on Sunday night. Patrick Mahomes is going to be running for his dear life against that game. I think Kansas City sacks. I think he gets sacked 6 times. 6 times in that game. 6 times. And CJ Stroud is going to make Patrick Mahomes look like who's the guy that won set from the Steelers? That's who he's going to look like. Doug Hodges or something like that. That's how that Texans defense is going to look. And CJ Stroud is going to look. He's going to perform well. Eagles, Chargers. This game is tough, man. This game is really tough. Part of me wants to take the Eagles just because I don't think they're going to lose this game, especially with Herbert's hand. But the Chargers are home. It's Monday night. You know, A.J. Brown's a little frustrated. I'm going to do it. I'm going with the Chargers. I'm riding with you, Juan. I got the Chargers winning that game by 14 points.
I will question this for you, man. That Seahawks pass rush up against an immobile quarterback that is Kirk Cousins, I think will be too powerful to try to even call for the upset, man.
I agree, but Seahawks struggles against the run. They struggle against the run. So as long as Bijan and Algier can get going, I think they'll be fine. And you control the time of possession. You keep Sam Darnold off. And I think, underrated matchup. AJ Terrell, Jackson Smith-Njigba. That is the matchup to watch for. They are going to go at it. They are going to go at it. So that's the matchup. If he can not shut him down, but if he can limit him and limit the explosive plays Seattle has, why can't Atlanta win that game? And they're home.
I will say this. Seahawks due for an ugly loss. This might be the right environment.
That's what I'm. One bird got to win. I'm going with the dirty bird.
It'll be interesting to see, man. I'm not mad at it. All right, I'm going to give my hot takes. Falcons versus Seahawks. We lost to the Jets. Give me the Seahawks. Dolphins versus the Jets. Give me the Dolphins. Steelers versus Ravens. Give me the Ravens. Saints versus Bucks. Give me the Bucks. Colts versus Jags. I'll save. That'll be my explainer. Titans versus the Browns. Give me the Browns. Commanders versus the Vikings. Give me Commanders. Bengals versus the Bills. Give me the Bills. Excuse me. Broncos versus the Raiders. Give me the Broncos. Bears versus the Packers. Give me the Packers. Rams versus the Cardinals. Give me the Rams. Texans versus the Chiefs. Give me the Chiefs. Eagles versus the Chargers. Give me the. You're right, Darius. That was tough.
Tough game, man.
Give me the Eagles. All right, and my explainer game is the Colts versus the Jags. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is going to be a very, very tough fought game, man. Fighting for the division lead here, both teams at 8-4. Playoff implications, playoff seeding implications, all the things on the line. Something very, very similar to what we just saw with Dallas and Detroit, but a little bit more on the line because it's within the same division. Juan's background's changed, ladies and gentlemen.
Because my back's against the wall of trying to get these game picks in to try to get the win with it.
I can dig it. So, yeah, I think this is going to be one that is very, very interesting to see. We've got the Jaguars, who are primarily a pass-first offense, going against the Colts, who are primarily a run-first offense. This is going to be a game where I think time of possession is going to be huge in this game. For that reason, I'm going to take the Colts over the Jags. But I would not be surprised if the Jags win this game because, again, Darius, you made the point about the protection for Daniel Jones. And so if the Jags can get to Daniel Jones, it could get dark for him. But I think that the Colts do just enough to win that game. And if I was to give a hot take, ladies and gentlemen, my hot take is this, very, very simply. The Bills and the Bengals combined for over 100 points scored. I don't believe in either one of their defenses, man. I don't believe in either one of their defenses. I think we're going to see shades of what was that? Rams and who was that? Rams and
Chiefs.
Lions.
Rams and Chiefs.
Rams and
Talking about
Chiefs.
that one,
Rams
yeah,
and
yep.
Chiefs. Oh my God, that's
Ketchup
I
versus
want-
mustard.
Yeah, I think we're going to see shades of that type of situation. James Cook running and doing his thing. I think Chase Brown even gets off a little bit. I think Jamar Chase has a big game. I think Brandon Cooks #150-2. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, over 100 points scored between the two.
Is Keon Coleman a healthy scratch in this one?
He played last week.
I don't think so, but that
He learned his lesson.
You talk about underwhelming. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, that's going to do it for us here at the Air Out Podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure being with you all. We appreciate you guys jumping in and leaving us your comments. Coach, we saw you in there. Yeah, that's going to do it for us. For Darius, for Juan. Oh, there it is. Juan with the brick house behind him. My name is Avery. Again, it's the Air Out Podcast brought to you by Inside the Hashes. Please do us a favor. Scan that QR code in the corner, man. Go ahead and scan that QR code. It's going to take you exactly where you need to go. Go to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and turn on the notifications. That way you can know when we are live and you can get your comments put in live, just like you saw here today. It's been a pleasure. Until next time, I want to let you know the only way that it's going to happen is as long as neither quarterback passed the football. I think Joe Burrow probably called
Drake
me
May.
before.
That's such a
When
great
he
nickname.
does
Like
that, then I absolutely see it.
Drake May.
I-
Nobody knows what it means.
I mean,
But it's like
it's was your way to end this show. First, you talking about nicknames for your supposed great
do that. You brought it up. Is what I'm
Trajectory.
saying.
and you and Nolan.
Now, like,
Why is it always
It's literally
Why can't we
carrying
talk about the
that
kicker,
being
man? How can Cam Little not be